Reb Elazar says, Reb Elazar, so we are now on page 554, Mishnah 19. Reb Elazar Omer, Chave Shkud Lilmud Torah. It's a different form of diligence, not zachir. Right? Be diligent, be driven and regular, right? Focused, concentrated, Lumud Torah. Be hardcore about learning Torah. V'da ma shetashiv be'epikoros. And you should know what to answer in Epikoros. V'da lifnei miyata omel. And you should know before whom you toil. V'ne'aman hu ba'al molasecha sheyishalem lecha schar pulasecha. And trustworthy is his, the Baal molasecha, the master of your work, sheyishalem, that he will pay you completely the schar of your pulasecha, the payment, the price of your labors. Rabbi Eliezer says, Havish Gud Lumud Torah, that you need to be hardcore and diligent in learning Torah. And know what to answer in Epikoros. So what's an Epikoros? If I told you what's the main reason to learn to teach Torah, so first of all, I need to grow, I need to know my obligations. It's interesting. He says, learn Torah so that you know how to answer an Epikoros. So what is an Epikoros? So an Epikoros is the people we consider to be our intellectual opponents. An Epikoros is a person who comes with on the surface, right, with an intellectual attack against Torah and Torah values. What's interesting is it comes from the Greek word epikureia, the Epicureans. Right? There's a sect amongst the Greeks called the Epicureans. So what's an epicure? In colloquial English, what's an epicure? What's an Epicurean delight? What's the word epicure? What?
Gourmet.
A gourmet. So, more than a gourmet. A gourmet is a person whose goal is to create beautiful food. Right? Gourmand, gourmet. An epicure is a person whose full life is devoted to indulgence. I want the tastiest, sweetest, fanciest, biggest, expensivest, if that's really a word. The Epicureans said, there's nothing else in life other than this big old bag of meat. And this meat has an interface to the world. That interface is my tongue, right? My hands and skin, various other anatomical components of a human body. But that's all I have. I'm a bag of meat with a nerve-centered, interface with the world. My job is to make those nerves as happy as possible. Feed them the best food you can find. Find them the best girl you can get your hands on. Give them the best shoes you can possibly find. Give them the nicest silk you can lay on that skin, right? The fanciest house, the prettiest pictures, everything was about absolute peak physical indulgence and physical pleasure. That's an Epicurean. What? That's an Epicurean. An Epicurean. That's the Greek philosophical system. So when we look at but in colloquial Hebrew, when you talk about an Epikoros, you're talking about a person who's a non-believer. I'm not talking about a non-believer who doesn't understand. And a guy who was raised with no background, he's got raised with no background. Right? A guy who was raised with no reason to think this is true and taught a completely opposite system who disagrees with you is not an Epikoros. An Epikoros is an enemy of Torah. Ideally, it's a guy who knows, who's learned, who knows, and is fighting against it. He's an enemy of Torah. So the question is, why would a guy become an Epikoros? So I remember having a discussion with one of my rebbeim, saying, I'm not afraid of college. I went to college. I studied comparative philosophy and anthropology and archaeology and art history and geology and paleontology, right? Biology, molecular genetics, Torah is Torah. There's truth here. There's no fact, right? Information that you're going to bring me that scares me. If you bring me a piece of information that shows I'm wrong on something, I'll listen to it. But I'm not afraid that you're going to bring me stuff that I intellectually can't deal with. Intellect is not a problem to me. So college doesn't bother me. So then my job is to train my kids so they'll be in the same place. We need to train our community so they'll be in the same place. That the intellectual, that they are immune to the intellectual arguments of the outside because they've heard brilliance from us. So our job is to teach them brilliance. Teach our kids, right? Have shkud lilmud Torah. Teach our kids brilliance. Right? You have to teach our kids the genius. I remember asking one of my first teachers, I said, when I was first becoming religious, and I said, what's the proof that got you? And I learned in a yeshiva was very big on proofs. None of the proofs spoke to me. So I asked him, what's the proof that gets you? And he says, the genius proof, the genius of Torah. I said, explain it to me. He says, you have to live it for 5 years first, then we'll talk. Right? And there are other reasons why, things I saw, truth in it. But he says, it's the genius. To me, it's Pirkei Avos. Right? Is it distilled, the genius of the moral and ethical and philosophical system. Right? But you have to learn it. So I said, I'm not afraid intellectually. He said, it's not a problem intellectually. He said, people don't fall off the derech in general. If we do a tremendously terrible job of educating kids into anything, and they hear instant, contradictions, and they think the other guys are right, if we completely fail, they fail. But why do people leave? Because they like pretty girls. Because they want to go to fraternity parties. Because they want to have it easy and hang out. Right? There's pleasure in the Yetzer Hara world. Or certainly lack of pain and comfort. It's a nice place to be. It's the Epicurean who gets us. Right? The person looks, you squeeze him, it looks like he's an Epicurus. It looks like he's an intellectual enemy. But the hint in the language is that underlying what really drives him is the drive to be an Epicurean. The drive to live your Yetzer Hara. I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want obligations. I don't want intellectual and moral burdens. I don't want to be different, right? I don't want to be denied, the best chocolate or the best coffee or the best whatever, physical thing that's out there. I want to live my life. I want to enjoy everything that's there. Everything that I want, right? It's an Epicurean. We call him an Epicurus, right? Epicurus. We call it Epicurus, but it arises from Epicureanism. The hint is that the intellectual danger. You want to keep your kids in the derech? You have to teach them enough facts and information. They need to hear the brilliance of our system. Because the thing that's going to lure them are sorority girls. That's the risk. Right? So he says you have to prepare yourself. You have to be diligent and understand what to answer in Epicurus. Right? You have to understand the answers. When the person comes and you can tell, he's got a drive to run away and do that because he's heard no clarity here. You have to have clarity for him. You have to be able to lay out. Here's how we look at the world. Here's what we think. Here's why it differs. Right? Here's what God is. Here's what, you got to have it idea after idea. You have to answer. He says, Da lifnei mi ata omel. You have to know before whom you toil. And also, Ne'eman hu ba'al ma'wasacha she'yisham lecha schar pa'vasecha. You have to know who you're doing this work for. He's the boss. He created you. He runs everything. He knows everything. Right? He's got no holes in the system. There's no place where he fails to understand what's what. He's the boss. But this last piece is interesting. We saw a Mishnah in the first parak. We cited this before. The first parak says, Al ti kavadim hasham shemet rav almanas lekabel pras. Ela ti kavadim hasham shemet rav shelo almanas lekabel pras. Right? Don't be like servants who serve their master for the sake of a pras. But here it says, know before whom you work. Right? Ne'eman hu ba'al ma'wasacha. And faithful is the master of your work. He's going to pay you. So what good advice is this? In the first parak, we had a mission that says, don't be like servants who serve their master because they're going to get stuff. And here it seems to say, you can trust that God's going to give you stuff. Do you hear the contradiction? Mm-hmm. The difference is this word schar versus the word pros. What's pros? Schar is I get a job, You promised me $10 an hour. I work 3 hours. You owe me $30. That's schar. We agreed, $10 an hour, 3 hours, $30. You think I did an exceptionally good job, and you give me a 50. That extra 20 is a pros. It's a bonus. It's a prize. You had no obligation to give it to me, but you did nevertheless. He says in the first Mishnah, the third Mishnah of the first parak, do not be like servants who serve their master for the sake of a bonus. In our Mishnah it says you can count on him to give you the schar, to pay you your wages. So the question is, what's the deal? What does God promise you? What's the schar? So the schar is a relationship. God promises you, if you do mitzvot, he will draw you close to him. If you take actions that make God's presence real in the world, God's presence will be real in the world. If you do the right thing to draw him close, he will be close to you. It's the same thing in any relationship. You can tell your husband or your wife, I will do good for you on the condition that you draw your heart close to me. Right? That's what you're in a relationship for. Right? I will be your friend on the condition that you be my friend. I can't say I will be your friend on condition that you give me Laker tickets. That's a pros. What you're not allowed to do is say, God, I will serve you, and I will be honest and meticulous and do mitzvahs. But you make me rich. You make me healthy. And if I'm not healthy, if I see bad things happen to good people, I'm out of here. That's pros. It's not the promise. You don't have that right. You do not have the right to say, God, you make it easy on me and I'll serve you. Sometimes it's going to be really difficult on you, and you still have to serve. That's the first Mishnah. But he says, you make the effort, you toil. Know before whom you're toiling. You're not toiling before some silly boss. You are toiling before the creator of the universe, the boss of everything, the guy who defined the system. Right? He tells you what's important in life, and he says, here's your work. Can you be sick and be a Kiddush Hashem? I don't know. It's a lot of work. Can you be a dad and be kind to your kids? Can you do mitzvot? Can you teach? Can you set up Kiddush? Can you set up Shal Shudas? Whatever it is. I mean, everyone has a different spot, a place where you work in the world, but your job is you must serve God. You must take actions. The difference between mitzvah system and boring actions. Mitzvah system, according to the Ramchal, are actions that make God's presence in the world real and draw him close to you. And Averas are actions that draw Hashem away from you, that push him away from you. So you have to choose between actions that draw him close to you and actions that push him away from you. And he says, if you choose things that draw him close, he will become close to you. If you choose to have a connection, he'll be connected to you. He'll listen to you, and he'll answer you. And he says you can trust him. So that's our Mishnah. He says, how do you deal with knowledge, people? You have to learn so you can answer the questions. You can't just let them go. How do you deal with yourself? You have to know who you're standing before. And how do you deal with God? You have to trust that if you're close to him, he'll be close to you. Sometimes hard to see because you don't get the pros. Sometimes your day is harder than you thought it was going to be. You know, I don't know where this path is going, right? Am I on a 2-year path? A 1-year path? A 10-year path? Or a 60-year path? Don't know where it ends. But then neither does anyone else, right? I've just been given the gift that it's more concrete. It's just sitting there saying, babe, walk forward, dude. Just walk forward.